So I just wanted to show you how easy it is to install one of the new Signature Series legs that we just came out with. It is a side mount, so we're going to drill a couple of holes through the side of the cabinet or furniture, whatever you're putting these on. I'm going to flip you around here. As you can see, I've taken my cabinet and I've just propped it up off the bench. As long as you're more than 8 inches off the bench or the floor, that'll be fine. So you can put this on here and kind of play around with where you might want to position the leg. I like it right in there, so I'm gonna put the center of my holes 1.5 inches in from the edge. So I've just marked my hole center location, and then I'm gonna take and just run a square line down the cabinet just to make sure we get both holes centered straight up and down. And then you can either measure from here up to the center of each hole and mark on your line where those holes are going to go, or I think a more foolproof way of doing it, if you're just not comfortable in getting those measurements correct. If you can see here, I've actually extended a line out from the center of each threaded insert, and then on the edge I just put a little tick of a pencil mark. You can just barely see it, and afterwards we can easily wipe that off of the polyurethane. But if you do it this way, we can simply put that up there next to the vertical line you just made. Find your tick marks and just transfer those onto the line. Like so. Okay, we've got our hole locations marked. And I wanted to show you guys, you're going to be receiving with these legs 1/4 inch stainless steel screws. I have a hex drive button head. You'll also be receiving stainless steel lock washers. Depending on your situation, you may or may not want to use those. And then I'm going to go ahead and send you a hex key so you don't have to go hunting around for yours. So these are 1/4 inch diameter screws, but what we want to do is drill just an oversized hole. It's going to make it a little bit easier to install, and it's going to give us a little bit of wiggle room so that we can make sure we get those legs seated all the way up into that notch. And so I'm going to use a 5/16 drill bit, and the ideal bit to be using here is a brad point bit, so you can really make sure you're getting right on that mark that you made for your hole location. If you don't have a brad point, maybe just start the hole with a smaller bit just to make a guide for your 5/16 bit. But ideally, you know, a brad point is going to be your best option. So I'm going to grab a square and I'm going to put it up here just as a visual reference to help me drill this hole through as straight as I can. Now, since we're doing an oversized hole, it's not going to matter if we're off just a little bit because we've got that little bit of wiggle room. But if we can get through as straight as possible, that's great. Let's go. Okay, with our holes drilled, obviously the only thing we have left to do is attach these. Pretty straightforward. But one last little tip for you. What I'd recommend is just putting these on finger tight, all 4 legs, and then take the supports out from underneath the cabinet and let the cabinet sit on the legs before you tighten them. That's going to make sure the cabinet seats down into the notch on all the legs. You can make sure it's the legs are sitting square on that little shoulder of the notch down there. And then once everything looks good, you can come back in with the hex key and tighten everything up. ahead. And that's it. I just went back and snugged up all those screws. And I did want to mention that the screws I'm sending are 1.25 inch, which are going to be ideal for a 3/4 inch thick side panel, which is going to be pretty common. But if you need a longer screw, this is a common thread size, 1/4 inch diameter, 20 threads per inch. You can get this type of screw at any hardware store, big box store. This is a 2-inch version that I can pick up off the shelf here locally. So if you need the longer version, they're out there, easy to get. Hope you guys enjoy these, and thanks a lot.